Hi team, the Sons of Russ have finally got their update in the latest Psychic Awakening book called the Saga of the Beast up for pre-order on the 21st of March, and you can buy it from Games Workshop from the 28th of March. This book also includes Orky stuff, which I'll cover in another video, but in this video we're going to treat this book just like the Salamander supplement, the White Scar supplement, or the Blood Angels bits in the previous Psychic Awakenings, because this is essentially what this book is. Some new stratagems, litanies, things like that, bringing the Space Wolves completely up to date with the other Space Marine factions. So bringing them completely up to date, they finally get combat doctrines, the Devastator, Tactical, and Assault Doctrine. Now, there has been a fact concerning the Devastator, Tactical, and Assault Doctrine. Basically, you're in Devastator in turn 1, and Tactical in turn 2, and Tactical and Assault in turn 3, Tactical or Assault in turn 3, and then Assault from turn 4 onwards. This book was obviously printed before that fact came out because it's cut and pasted from the previous books. So it just talks about you could stay in Devastator all game, according to this book. So for those of you that aren't aware of the Space Marine fact, the rules in this book aren't up to date. Devastator Doctrine is an additional -1 AP to grenade and heavy weapons. Tactical Doctrine is an additional -1 AP for assault and rapid fire weapons. That's in turn 2. And then the Assault Doctrine in turn 3 onwards, or the Tactical in turn 3. Is a -1 for melee weapons and pistol weapons. I feel like we've been here before. Wasn't the Space Wolves Codex out of date when they immediately published it and got immediately fact because the sagas were wrong? Well, the combat doctrines in this book are wrong. And check the recent fact. Okay, the other thing that Space Wolves get, obviously, is Angels of Death, and They Shall Know No Fear, Bolted Discipline, Shock Assault, just like all the other Space Marine chapters. Space Wolf detachments also get Objective Secured or Defenders of Humanity, and Hunters Unleashed. Hunters Unleashed is unchanged for those that don't know. Basically, Space Wolves can heroically intervene up to 6 inches, which is big. It's actually quite a good mechanic. It's quite a surprising gameplay mechanic. It comes up more often than you would think. And they also get Hunters Unleashed. This is full Space Wolf detachment. You can't mix and match. And Hunters Unleashed means they hit on 2s when they heroically intervene, charge, or charged, or basically add 1 to hit rolls, so their normal tactical marines hit on 2s. Power Fists, for example, would hit on 3s, but Power Fists and Thunder Hammers on Wolf Lords, which would normally hit on 2s, go back to 3s, and then add 1 to hit, they go back down to 2s. Basically, Space Wolves are better at hitting stuff in close combat, +1 to hit. It's only in the turn they charge, though, or are charged. In ongoing combats, they lose that ability, just like losing Shock Assault. Also, if your entire army is Space Wolves Battle Forged, then you get the combat doctrines. And if your entire army is Space Wolves Battle Forged, except for unaligned units, you also get a new rule called Savage Fury when the Assault Doctrine is active if an unmodified hit roll of a 6 is made for an attack with a melee weapon by a unit with this ability. That attack scores 1 additional hit on the target. So it's better than Death to the False Emperor, but also worse than Death to the False Emperor. Death to the False Emperor, unmodified hit rolls of 6. It's not even unmodified hit rolls of 6, so Power Fists don't get it. But basically on 6s to hit with Death to the False Emperor, then you gain additional attacks which you can roll for. Now that will kick in turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Savage Fury is better because as soon as you get an unmodified hit roll of a 6, you get an extra auto hit. You don't have to roll for it. You just get 2 hits for every 6. But it's worse because you need to be in at least turn 3, the Assault Doctrine, to be active. So to summarise, Space Wolves are better at hitting stuff, and they should be. From turn 1, turn 2, they're getting +1 to hit. When the Assault Doctrine is active, they're getting +1 to hit. When they charge, they're getting their Shock Assault, and on 6s, they're getting additional auto hits. And remember, when the Assault Doctrine is active as well, it's an additional -1 AP to melee weapons. So those Thunder Hammers, those Power Fists are coming in at AP -4. And exploding dice is on 6. It's brutal. On top of that, they got a chunk of new stratagems, 3 pages of stratagems to help them out as well. Now, Fury of the First. It's a Space Marine stratagem, which means that your Terminators hit on 3s with their Power Fists or Thunder Hammers instead of 4s. Space Wolves have got that strat as well. It's called Fury of the Champions. When this stratagem, use the stratagem in any phase, select one Space Wolves Terminator unit from your army. Till the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in that unit, add 1 to the hit roll. So in turn 3, they're going to get +1 to the hit roll for this strat, and +1 to the hit roll if they charge. So Power Fists and Thunder Hammers from Terminators are going to be hitting on a 2+ and exploding on 6s. There's a reason why they made Thunder Hammers and Power Fists hitting on 4s. There's a reason why they made them unwieldy. It's because if you have a unit of even just 5 of these guys punching something, hitting on 4s, re-rolling 1s, it could be pretty brutal. But hitting on 2s, say you've got a guy nearby, so they're hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1 with AP -4, Thunder Hammers or Power Fists. In turn 3 onwards, when the Assault Doctrine is active, Terminators are going to be rinsing things, or anything that has, well, Terminators in particular because of this stratagem. So that's one example of how Space Wolves will be absolutely brutal in Assault. Here's another one, Touch of the Wild, 1 CP stratagem. Use this stratagem in the fight phase, select one of your Space Wolves character models in your army. Say it's the Thunder Cav character, say it's your Warlord charging in. Till the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by that model, an unmodified hit roll of a 4+ scores 1 additional hit. Not a 6-up, a 4+. Ooh, mama. It's an unmodified hit roll, so re-rolls would count. Modified hit rolls are when you're hitting on a 5 and it's a +1, or when you're hitting on a 6s. And modified hit rolls are things that move your dice roll up or down. If you're chucking 6 dice at something, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, then those re-rolls count. If you flip one of those 1s to a 4 for Touch of the Wild, then that will count as a hit roll. And 1 additional hit, you're talking about many hits coming in with your Thundercav guys, or your Power Fist, Terminator, Captain, or whatever hero that you're throwing at your enemy. While we're running through the stratagems, let's talk about some of the other ones in these 3 pages here. You've got all the good strats, all the usual strats that you see in the other Space Marine supplements as well, such as Duty Eternal, Veteran Intercessors, Boltstorm, Hammer of Wrath, Rapid Fire, so you can stand still and fire twice. Hero of the Chapter, you can select one of your Space Wolves characters and give them a Warlord trait. Big Guns Never Tire, move a Space Marine vehicle and count as though it was stationary. Gene Wrought Might is going to be particularly good for Space Wolves because unmodified hit rolls of 6s automatically wound a target, and it's only 1 CP. I've used this strat myself just as a normal Space Marine player, just trying to get as many hits in as possible, and on 6s to hit you don't have to roll a wound, they'll auto wound. So on 6s to hit with Space Wolves, when the Assault Doctrine is in effect, you're going to be generating an additional hit, and with Gene Wrought Might they're going to be automatically wounding. Again, sticking these on some Thunderhammer Terminators, or essentially anything with a hammer or a fist, is going to be absolutely brutal, and it's only 1 CP. Transhuman Physiology is in here as well for 2 CP. That's ignoring all wound rolls of a 1 to 3 for Space Marine infantry. Not just infantry actually, it says any Space Wolves unit that's not a vehicle or a servitor, so that would work on your Thundercav as well. You've also got Steady Advance, Vengeance of the Machine Spirit, all of these general rules that you find in the other supplements, and half of the ones I've just spoken about are really good, but all of them have got a use on the tabletop. There's a reason why they're cutting and pasting these into the other books. It's because they're good and they're cheap. There's also the first 0 command point stratagem. It costs nothing to spend it, nothing to do it, 0 CP, called Knowledge of the Foe. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when an enemy character is destroyed by an attack by a Space Wolves model. You get a command point. Another good strat which Space Wolves players are going to use and is going to catch opponents of Space Wolves out by surprise every now and then. Their 6-inch heroic intervention from their characters, I've been caught out from that. I know it's a thing. I've played against Space Wolves quite a few times, and then you forget it mid-game, and all of a sudden you've got Bjorn coming in for a 6-inch heroic intervention, or that Wolf Lord, which was 5 inches away on the right flank. Suddenly he comes swinging in on a 6-inch heroic intervention and murders you. Well, for 1 CP, you can give that to any Space Wolves unit. And so suddenly a Space Wolves unit is heroically intervening 6 inches as if it was a character. I know this is going to catch me out by surprise, and I know after I charge that tank over there thinking I'm quite safe, that all of a sudden this unit of Thunder Cav, which were 5 inches away, are going to come crashing in, or a unit of Wolfen are going to come crashing in from 5-6 inches away. 1 CP, counter charge. I love it. Very Space Wolfy. I do love these stratagems, you know. There's quite a few Space Wolfy ones in here. Crushing Charge, 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your charge phase when a Thunder Cavalry unit from your army finishes a charge move. For each model in that unit, you can select 1 enemy unit within 1 inch of that model and roll a d6. On 2 up, the enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. A 2 up, 1 mortal wound. For each model that you have, each Thunder Cav model that you have, if you charge 5 Thunder Cav in an enemy unit, you've got 5 chances of doing a 2 up potentially 5 mortal wounds on the enemy unit at the end of the charge phase. Vicious Executioners. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Wolf Guard unit from your army, any Wolf Guard unit from your army, is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made by a model in that unit against an infantry unit, an unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts 1 mortal wound on the target, in addition to the other damage. 6s doing mortal wounds against infantry. Pack Hunters. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when Fenrisian Wolves or Cyber Wolves units from your army are chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, so long as they're within 3 inches of a friendly Space Wolves infantry unit or a Space Wolves cavalry unit, you can re-roll the hit rolls. So you've got to keep your Fenrisian Wolves or Space or Cyber Wolves next to a cav unit or infantry unit, but re-rolling the hit rolls for 1 CP. I know a lot of people don't take the doggies, the little wolves, but they're cheap and they're fast and they can keep up with Thunder Cav. And when the Assault Doctrine is in effect, that's an additional -1 on their attacks, on their AP. Storm Strike benefits Storm Fang gunship models from your army until the shooting phase. Until the end of that phase, when resolving an attack made with a Hellfrost Destructor by that model, add 1 to the hit roll, add 1 to the wound roll, and add 1 to the damage roll for 1 CP. Stormfang gunships suddenly got nasty. Skilled Riders. If you've got a Space Wolf biker unit or a land speeder unit, no one brings Space Wolf bikers or Space Wolf land speeders, but if you do, and that unit moves, they get a 4-up invulnerable save. If they advance, they get up a 3-up invulnerable save. It costs 2 CP. I can't remember the last time I've seen land speeders or bikers in a Space Wolf list, but maybe we'll see some bikers now because of the bolter discipline rule and the ability for them to hit on 2s when they get into close combat, particularly with an additional AP. When the Assault Doctrine is in effect, particularly with dice exploding on 6s, maybe it's a way to go. Maybe a couple of units of 3 Space Wolf bikers zipping around in the backfield, bolter discipline stuff down, particularly when the Tactical Doctrine is in effect, and zipping onto objectives here and there, and then in turn 3, turn 4, getting in there, hitting on 2s, dice exploding on 6s, -1 AP to their attacks, and a 4-up invulnerable save or a 3-up invulnerable save if they advance for 2 CP. Death, Grip, Bite. Use this stratagem in the fight phase when a Thunder Cav unit from your army is chosen to fight with. Until the end of that phase, Crushing Teeth and Claws models in that unit have a damage characteristic of 2 instead of 1. If you spend 1 CP, you'll definitely not forget that you've got Crushing Teeth and Claws for a change when you go charging in. But damage 2 with them, that's nasty. I think I covered all the strats there. There's a couple that I haven't, which are cut and pasted from the Space Marine books, like Skyfire and Steady Advance and stuff like that. So those are the strats. Thunder Cav got a boost. Terminator's got a hella boost with Fury of the Champions and just Space Wolves doing what Space Wolves do, and with Bolter Discipline. Either Thunderhammer Space Wolves hitting on 2s with this strat is going to be nasty, or normal Terminators deep striking in, shock assaulting with their, bolter discipline with their bolters, and then charging in. Terminators are going to be nasty in Space Wolf lists. Couple of strats in here as well that allow you to dish out those additional mortal wounds when you charge or in the fight phase. And let's not forget transhuman physiology, big guns never tire. Hero of the chapter, just being able to give an extra warlord trait to another character in your army. The good ones from the good stratagems from the Space Marine books. Just some of these stratagems here are going to help make the Space Wolves sing. What else you get? Well, you get a couple of other things that bring Space Wolves up to date with the other Space Marine chapters. You've got the Obscuration Discipline here for your Wolf Space Wolf Psychers that are in Phobos pattern armor. And all the Obscuration Discipline psychic powers are the same as in the other books. You've also got the Litanies of Battle in here for your Space Wolf Wolf Priests. Space Wolf Wolf Priests are the same as Chaplains. Well, they're not the same because they've also got the Feel No Pain thing. But they're similar to Chaplains in other Space Marine books. And all the Litanies are in here from the other Space Marine books as well as a specific Space Wolf litany that you can do, which is, if this litany is inspiring, remember you need to roll a 3 up for your chaplains, for your wolf priests to make their litany inspiring. But if it's inspiring, select a friendly Space Wolf unit within 6 inches of this model. When resolving an attack made with a melee weapon by a model in that unit against a monster or vehicle, add 1 to the damage characteristics of that weapon for that attack. And I must have Terminators on the brain or something, because I can see a Space Wolf Wolf Priest throwing this out to a unit of Terminators that have deep struck in and are charging in turn 3. And suddenly those Thunderhammers are hitting on 2s with that strat and exploding on 6s and damage 4 Thunderhammers. You probably tear down an Imperial Knight in one attack with just 5 dudes. So 5 Space Wolf Terminators with Thunderhammers. If you put this litany on them, so those Thunderhammers are damage 4, that's 16 attacks coming in. Say they're hitting on 2s and all of them hit. So that's 16 hits. Strength 8 versus Toughness 8. Wounding on 4, say half of them wound. That's 32 damage. 32 damage with 5 guys, and that's half of the wounds coming through if they're hitting on 2s. Brutal. Right, other stuff. You've got your Vanguard Warlord traits in here because your Warlord can take Phobos armor, because there's lots of updated data sheets in here. We've got Ragnar Blackmane, Wolf Priest in Terminator armor, Wolf Priest, Primaris Wolf Priest, Wolf Lord in Phobos armor, Primaris Battle Leaders in Phobos armor, Rune Priest in Phobos armor, Intercessors, Infiltrators, Incursors, Invicta Tactical Warsuit, Suppressors, Eliminators, Repulsor Executioner, and the Impulsor are all in this book. The data sheets for all of them are all in this book. Let's talk about Ragnar Blackmane. I think most people know what's happening with Ragnar Blackmane because there's been leaks all over the internet. He's 120 points and he's an absolute beatstick. So you can re-roll hit rolls of 1 for attacks made by models in friendly Space Wolf units while they're within 6 inches of him. So he's got the normal Captain strat or the Wolf Lord strat. Reroll hit rolls of 1. This dude hits on a 2s and he's got base 7 attacks. And when he charges, when this model is affected by the shock assault ability, or when he's charged basically, you add 3 attacks to this model instead of 1. So when he charges or is charged, he's got 10 attacks. He's hitting on 2s, he's re-rolling 1s, and his weapon, Frost Fang, is strength 6, -4, 2 damage. What an absolute boss. He's also got War Howl, so you can reroll charges for him, or friendly Space Marine units that are not vehicles within 6 inches of him as well. And he consolidates 6 inches, so long as he's not within 3 inches of an enemy unit. Basically, so long as he murders anything he kills, he can consolidate 6. And any Space Wolf units within 6 inches of him can consolidate 6 inches. So long as there's no enemies within 3 inches of them as well, so long as they murder everything he kills. Basically, he's incredibly quick, re-rolling charges, consolidating a long way, stupid number of attacks, and buffing everything around him. And he's 120 points. We're going to see loads of Ragnar Blackmanes all over the place. Remember, when the Assault Doctrine is in effect, not only has this guy got 10 attacks when he charges and re-rolling hit rolls of 1, it'll be at AP -5 and 6s are going to be exploding. Or you can spend 1 CP and give him the stratagem Touch of the Wild, so that on 4+, his exploding on a 4+ instead of a 6-up. So he'll have 10 attacks exploding on 4s. You're looking at a dude, say all 10 of those hits, hitting on 2s, re-rolling 1s, say all 10 of them hit on a 4+, with this stratagem in effect, potentially Ragnar Blackmane could get 20 hits in 1 turn at strength 6 -5, 2 damage. I don't know any other characters that could do that. Did I mention he was 120 points? Oh dear, ridiculous. Right, we've got some new relics in here as well. I won't go through all of them. There is upgraded weapons. Oh, you can't give these relics to Ragnar Blackmane. You can only give them to non-named characters. But there's upgraded weapons like we've seen. I'm not going through all of them, but this one's really nice. Talisman of Storms, Rune Priest only. After resolving the first psychic power from the bearer in your psychic phase, roll a d6. For each enemy unit within 12 of the bearer on a 4-up, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. So in every psychic phase, after you do your first psychic power, roll a dice. On a 4-up, each enemy unit within 12 inches suffers a mortal wound. If your Rune Priest is right down in the thick of it, and let's face it, that's where a Space Wolf's Rune Priest should be, particularly from turn 3, turn 4, turn 5. Yeah, 50-50 chance of doing a mortal wound to every enemy unit within 12 of him after you do your first psychic power. Brilliant. There's another mortal wound bomb here. Infantry character, it's a Mountain Breaker Helm. Basically at the end of the fight phase, so long as you're still in combat, so long as you're still within an inch of an enemy unit. So at the end of the fight phase, you've done all the fights, yada, yada, yada. You're still locked in combat. You roll a dice. On a 2-up, that enemy unit suffers another D3 mortal wounds. That could be a character, toe-to-toe with a character, because it says if this ability destroys an enemy character, and the bearer of the relic is your warlord, treat the bearer as having performed their deed of legend as well. But yeah, a nice little sting in the tail at the end of combat there. We've got adamantium mantles and runic armor. Well, adamantium mantles, you've got a 5-up shrug. Runic armor gives you a 2-up save with a 5-up invulnerable save. There's a wolf tail talisman in here, which is quite nice. When a psychic test is taken for an enemy model within 18 inches of the guy with a wolf tail talisman, subtract 2 from the result. If you're in your local meta, you're going up against a lot of Eldar or a lot of Tzeentch demons or a lot of Tyranids, then you're probably going to run the wolf tail talisman. -2 to psychic tests. It's yeah, that's a nice little one. So that's most of the big changes in the Space Wolves book. They've brought them up to date with the other Space Wolves books, giving them combat doctrines. They've got the extra sting in the tail, the exploding 6s, and the stratagems are really going to help them out. And access to all the new toys, all the new models is going to really help them out. And Ragnar Blackmane is going to help them out as well. So that's pretty much it. There's other little details in here, other little bits, but I'm not going to go over every single thing. It'll get very boring if I do. But how do you run Space Wolves then? Clearly, they're going to shine in Assault, and clearly they're going to shine in Assault from turn 3 onwards. Well, they still can get choppy in turn 1, turn 2. They're still hitting on 2s in turn 1 and turn 2, or hitting on 3s if they're just Thunder Cav with a fist. But you know what I mean, they're hitting on +1 to hit. So they're still very punchy. Space Wolves have always been very punchy, but you're going to want to get it to Assault Doctrine as soon as you can in turn 3. Which means in turn 1 and in turn 2, you're going to be doing what Space Marines do. You're going to be suppressing the foe, using your Mortis Dreadnoughts, using your tanks to suppress the foe and crack open the armor you can, and position, ready to descend upon the enemy as hard and as fast as you can in turn 3. You're probably going to want to be deep striking your Terminators in, or moving your Wolfen and your Thunder Cav up in turn 2, getting the positions right in turn 2. And then in turn 3, charging in and doing a crap ton of work. If you manage to pull off those charges in turn 3, if you manage to position correctly in turn 2, or deep strike in turn 3 and make those 9-inch charges, If you manage to get those positioning down, then when the Space Wolves hit in turn 3, particularly with some of the stratagems in these books, particularly if they're throwing Thunderhammer Terminators up the table, they're going to be doing some serious work. So it's going to be about keeping your Wolfen alive for a couple of turns. So when they hit in turn 3, exploding on 6s, it's going to be keeping about maybe throwing a unit of Thundercav or something distracting up the table first to keep your opponents occupied before the rest of the army hits in turn 3. If the enemy army is an assault-based army and it's coming at you, then you don't have to move very much, because they're going to be walking into a trap. They're going to be walking into claws and fangs, and you're going to descend upon them and destroy them in turn 3. Are Space Wolves going to break the meta? Probably not, but they're going to be a lot better at what they do. Space Wolves have just got a lot more Space Wolfy, and have got a lot more toys and stratagems with which to make them more effective. If you haven't got Terminators in your Space Wolves list, then I highly recommend that you get a unit of 5 of them at least. Adding them up there with your Wolfen and with your Thundercav, and having that additional pressure, particularly if they're Thunderhammer Storm Shield types, then that's going to help you out an awful lot. You're still going to need your back range Dagger. You're still going to need your Dreadnoughts back there, or your tanks back there suppressing the enemy for a turn or two. I think there's a good argument to be made for Invicta Tactical Warsuits in Space Wolf lists as well, particularly as they have a huge number of attacks and they're quick. And in the Space Wolves list, they'll be hitting on 2s, and they're cheap as well. I think 130, 140 points, just the Flamer variant. So fast and quick, and a good distraction unit, which your enemy needs to deal with in the first couple of turns, while the rest of your army is repositioning around. So, yeah, Space Wolves just got a bit more Space Wolfy. I like it. I do like these stratagems. They do what Space Wolves should be doing. The stratagems just feel right. So Space Wolves are good again. Just the addition of the combat doctrines is enough to make all Space Marines list uber powerful, even before you tag on the new strats and the new little buffs that they get. So just the addition of those combat doctrines will really help Space Wolf players out, and they've got that extra crunch, that extra sting in their tail as well. So anyway, thanks for listening. I'll shut up now. If you want to support me, please consider subscribing to deploymentzone.tv, or you can support through Patreon, DZTV on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who has chosen to support us. Very much appreciated. Happy wargaming.